value, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and of course the maximum. But I couldn't project all of them. Next slide. I couldn't project all of them. Next slide. There we go. I hope the screens behind there are clearer than the one we have in front. So, for example, I took the example of calcium, and you can see the box plots of calcium in Kibera, calcium in Kiserian. Kiserian is the point from where we got the livestock waste digesters, and the samples were collected from there. Then in Kibera we had the samples of the human waste, and then in in Alliance we got the livestock waste digesters and collected samples from there. In Kiserian we had the abattoir waste, abattoir ni kichinjio. And then in Kibera we had the human waste digesters. Now that is on calcium alone. Then there is the one for iron. There's the one for lead. I was interested in lead because the lead numbers were higher than necessary. And then there's the one from magnesium. Then similarly, I went and tried to show, and in my slides I have samples of the correlation matrices of all the elements. And as well, next slide, I'm projecting just a few. There we go. Yeah, that one. So if you look at the correlation of nearly all the elements, of course, where you see one, it means it's an element against itself. So you can't correlate the same element. But if we are talking about calcium, for example, and how it relates with magnesium, then we find a negative correlation from one side to another. But we are still talking about the same element. So it means at some point, the rise of one means a decrease in the other. The visual data that is most clear is in the next slide, the scatter plots, because it shows both the R values and the P values. Yeah, there we go. So when you look at, for example, magnesium in Kibera and magnesium in Kiserian, then you realize that R is negative. So the correlation between magnesium in Kibera and magnesium in Kiserian is negative. The p-value is a strong positive. We know that the R value is supposed to be between -1 and 1. So the higher the negative, the more negative the correlation. It means a rise in another leads to a sharp decrease in the other. So in this as well, I sampled magnesium is there. Then there's magnesium in Kiserian and magnesium in Alliance, where there is a positive correlation, and the p-value is close to is a big one compared to 0.05, which we are using as the standard for statistical analysis. So they are all in my slides. We will see them as we go along, and somebody can then look at the full paper to understand all of it. In the interest of time, what did we find out from this research? One, as I said or alluded earlier on, human waste had the highest concentration of most of the elements. Then this was followed by abattoir waste, and then the livestock waste digested had the least counts of most of the elements. Now, cadmium and mercury were detected below, they were determined below detection level. So it means there is no danger to the environment as it relates to the two common heavy elements in mercury and cadmium. But lead, which is a common polluter, was highest in human waste, which I said the samples were collected from the Umande region of Kibera, Nairobi. maybe it's at this point that I should explain that one of the explanations we found for the high amount of lead in Kibera is that Kibera has micro industries, and some of them have wastes that contain lead, like the car batteries, and so on and so forth. So that was the one possible explanation of why we have a lot of lead in the waste in Kibera. Then, of the three slurries, livestock wastes have the highest potential of polluting agricultural soils and the environment. Not livestock, sorry. The human waste slurries have the highest potential of polluting the environment, given the high amount of lead that we found there. Now that leads me to my recommendations. One, if you're an agriculturalist or an agronomist, you might want to know which crop is best suited or matched with slurries from which type of digester. So if your digester is livestock waste based, then you know what amount of elements you're interested in and in what quantities, then you decide which crop would best be suited to use it as an organic fertilizer, and so on and so forth. It is important. Second recommendation: it's important to investigate the potential of the digestates as biofertilizers in respect to the macronutrients that they generate. As I finish, there needs to be regulations relating to this, because currently everybody generates their slurries and they just use it without any regulations that exist. So thank you very much. I want to acknowledge the support I got from my principal and my research coordinator, among other people I consulted, including some people in academia. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that informative presentation from Kirawa. I would want to welcome questions from the audience. Any question? Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Dennis Makori from Nairobi Technical Training Institute. Thank you for that good presentation, but I have 4 concerns that I'd like you to expound on them. The first one, you have presented, but I'd like you to come out clearly on the problem that motivated your research, or on the problem that made you to come up with the research. Number 2, when I look at your objectives, that's according to me, objective A and C, to me I don't know how they are measurable, or let me put it like this. Can you expound on your variables and how you measured them? Then number 3, your study area. Can you expound on your study area? Then the last one, when I look at your results, they are very much crowded with a lot of statistics. It may be very difficult for a layman to understand because there is a lot of statistics. I wish you could have simplified your results. Thank you.
Do you have another? I'll only pick one this time.
Thank you very much. I am Henry Thorait from Nakuru County. I only have one question to the presenter. I think your work is okay, but when you look at the title of your work, that is elemental composition of biogas, digested slurries from varied feedstocks, and prospective impacts on farmlands. But when you go to the results, you find that you also included the human waste. So I wonder whether the title matches with what we were looking at. Thank you.
And please, let's hear from Sifuna here.
Okay, that's a nice presentation, sir. My concern is this. You see, when we want to apply some of the products, for example, from the slurry, and we apply it in farmland, our intention is to improve growth and maybe the nutrients. Most of the nutrients that we are interested in, is like nitrates and phosphates to me. So I wish when you were doing the EDX, when you are doing the EDX and XRF for characterization, it doesn't really show that actually it will be beneficial in agriculture. Maybe this can be applied elsewhere. Lastly is I know for human beings we always shy away from using our own wastes in especially if you want to apply on the farm. You need to expound on that, and yet you are telling us that they have, most of them, they have lead, and that's why maybe it's common sense that human beings are exposed more on pollution. Thank you.
So you can give the microphone to the presenter so that he can respond to those concerns, please.
Let me start with Simiyu. People shying away from use of human waste is a social issue. But as the country grows and as the world grows, people are beginning to appreciate the need to use even the things that traditionally we thought were meant for, harsh discussions. Because today, as I speak to you, in Kibera, actually, they are using human waste to generate biogas. And I went into houses and saw that people use this biogas as a source of kitchen energy. But you see, my interest was now in the question of where do they take this thing. And in Kibera, for example, there are some small spaces where they grow some vegetables and they actually take those things directly to those farms. And of course, the study stops at that. There has to be a scope. You have to go somewhere and then you stop. As pertains nitrates and phosphates, you are alluding to the fact that the elements I present have to be converted from the form that I present to the form that the crop actually consumes, which is true. But then if you have a lot of phosphorus, for example, then you are going to have a lot of phosphates at the end of it all, because that conversion has only to start somewhere. And this is where I'm coming in with my phosphorus. I'm answering backwards, so I'll get to you. Somebody asked about the title and why we have human waste among our samples. Elemental composition of biogas digested slurries from varied feedstocks. Varied feedstocks means different feedstocks. The feedstocks are what we feed into the biogas digester, from which then we get the biogas and the slurries. Are you okay? Thank you. One of the people in the audience said there's too much statistics and the layman might not understand what I'm talking about. But there is, I think, some facts related to what you are saying. But at some level of research also, you cannot describe everything until you bring in statistics. And the easiest way I thought I could was to use statistics to then generate things that people can view with little explanations of what, for example, R means and what the p-value stands for. The people in the audience might guide me on how to maybe simplify it further. The study area. Were you asking about the physical study area? Okay. My locations are in slide 5, if they may. In slide 5, I snipped part of the map to show the locations from which I collected my samples. It was majorly in Kiambu County and Nairobi, because Kibera is in Nairobi, Alliance is in Kiambu. Umande, that is still in Kibera. The third one is in Ngong. Ngong, I think, is in the Rift Valley. There is an abattoir there called Kiserian Abattoir in the Rift Valley, but close to Nairobi. You were asking about the objectives and the variables. My objective was to find out how much of what we have. So, for example, I was concerned about, I'm giving an example of lead, how much lead we have in all the three. I don't know from where you stand what you will call a variable or lack of one in that, but in my opinion, I achieved all my objectives because I determined how much of every element we found in all the samples I collected. The problem on OI, why I carried out this research, I think I started with it, the need for research on slide 3. Maybe you had not stepped in, but I said everybody uses all the slurries to fertilize all the crops. And for me, that is a scientific error, or there is an opportunity to know more. So I saw a need. I was not seeing a problem. Sometimes you do a research because there's a need, not necessarily because there's a... I saw an opportunity of getting more information on what types of slurry will give us what type of nutrient. And I did, and I presented them in my findings. Thank you. Back to the panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for Kirawa's presentation. We can now put our hands together and appreciate him. And at that point, we welcome Brian Ondari. Brian Ondari from the same college. Please, let's have at least 3 questions and one question from one person so that we can move a little bit faster. It is already 4 and we are supposed to break at 4. Now we will break at 5, only 1 hour. Please.
Thank you. Brian Ondari, and I'm here to present a paper review, not really a research as such, not an experimental research, but a paper review. And the next slide, please, so that we can just move to save on time. The topic is a combustion characteristics of briquettes from different feedstock of agricultural wastes. So here I'm intending to find out briquettes are being made from different briquettes, from different feedstocks. So I'm trying to see what are we getting from these different feedstocks when we try to make briquettes from them. Then from there I'm going to see about how which feedstock is giving us the maximum, and then from there maybe we can do further research. Like here I'm really trying to generate a further research so that we are able to form a basis for further research of optimization. So on the content, we have the introduction, background information, then from there I'm moving to proximate analysis. That's what exactly I'm doing there. Ultimate analysis, binder and density, then conclusion and recommendation. Here I'm trying to see about the introduction, where I'm going to show the papers that I reviewed, and then giving the background information on how these briquettes are made. Then from there I'll look at the proximate analysis for different feedstocks, whereby in the proximate analysis we are going to check about the moisture content, check about the moisture content, proximate how do you call it? Moisture content, carbon content. Then we look at the ash content. Then we are able to analyze. Then on ultimate analysis, we are going to see the specific content that are available. That is, we check about the sulfur, the carbon content in it, then about the oxygen, and also we are going to see about the binders that are used to make there, because remember when you are making briquettes, you have to look at the binders that are being made. Then here, we are also going to form a basis of looking at what binder gives the best briquette on binder characteristics. Then we look at the conclusion, and the recommendation. Then on the references, I've also shown the differences that I used in that research. On the introduction, we are saying that research are being made on energy, and we have seen a lot of research being done on energy, whereby more research has emphasized more on the use of biomass. Then here we are going to see about, again, we see that in any economic development, we really need energy to facilitate for development. But here we see about developing countries, they are using so much biomass. But then there are different technologies they are using in this one. So we are going to see about how can we maximize these agricultural wastes. Instead of just cutting trees, like what we know about our government, we are so much in planting of trees, so we have to reduce those cutting of trees, and we are able to form a better way of getting an energy resource instead of just going to the forest to cut trees. So that is why I'd say that we should get at this. Then at the same time, these agricultural wastes, they are being thrown all over. Like you find something like, maybe we take, for example, groundnuts. After they have put off those boats of groundnuts, they are just thrown maybe somewhere, and they take too much time to decompose, and sometimes they don't even decompose, so they even pollute the environment. And some others, look like example regions where we have bananas. We get that those bananas, they are thrown in the field, then they are not utilized fully, because too much of something, if we just allow them even in the field, they form the soil to be waterlogged, something of the sort. So we have to look, we can utilize this one to have a better way we can dispose this kind of wastes, these agricultural wastes. Hope you are in the next slide. Yeah, agricultural wastes are abundant in countries depending on agriculture. That is just like a common sense, I can say that. These wastes also have limited pollutants. That is from the research that has been done, like the sulfur content, nitrogen content. Remember, once they have released to the environment, we have something like sulfurous acid, which forms when they mix with the water, then and nitrogen, which are also pollutant to the environment. And this one, we have to come in to use them instead of using some other sources of energy like coal, which we know it is being used in some other countries, and even in Kenya especially it's also used. Like we have the Lam coal project that they are proposing to use the coal that is being exploited in Kenya, that is in Moi, those who come from Kambani, and also Taru in the Kenyan coast. We are also seeing that one, so we have to try and look for alternatives to eliminate this. Then we see there is a decline in fossil fuel usage due to worldwide restrictions. And we have seen this one, especially some countries, especially when the wake of the wake of COVID-19, some countries started banning out the use of coal. So we have to look for a better way of getting some other energy resources. Then on background information, I've just mentioned there that biomass utilization technologies are in the market, and we have so many technologies that are being used, but I've mentioned those 5 which I've mentioned there. I think you can move to the next slide. Yes, not really. Sorry, back again. I don't think that is what, yeah, that is what I'm saying. We have combustion, where we say that this is just burning directly. Like you take the fuel, then you burn them directly. Then we have pyrolysis, whereby this one is whereby you burn this coal at a very high temperature, then you are able to exploit, to get to convert this biogas, then you are able, sorry, this biomass, then you are able to get the energy from there. Gasification is whereby you burn this biomass, then say that combustion characteristics of different feedstocks to find the best precate material that you can use as a feedstock, so that you are able to find which is the best that you can use. Then elemental and approximate quantities differ among these different biomass. So we have to look at, because every feedstock has got its advantage and disadvantages. From the graphs that we will see later on, then we are able now to see which one is the best. Then from here, you can also do what we call mixing, and then you are able to find out. You mix with one, maybe it has got higher moisture content, and there is one that has lower moisture content, then you are able to find out which is the best. Remember, higher moisture content is normally not suitable for a given fuel source.
Please,
so you have to
make your final comments. We go for questions.
Sorry. So it's okay. Maybe we can just rush through the slides, then I'm able to show you maybe how that was done. Just the next slide. Yeah, that is the moisture content for different feedstocks. Next. That is the volatile matter for different feedstock, and I rated the feedstock that I carried out, the ash content. Next. That is the fixed carbon content. The hydrogen content, that's now ultimate analysis. We are able to find out different ultimate analysis from there. Next, please. That is the calorific value, which of course is a very key element for any fuel. You have to find out which one has the highest calorific value. Then from here, you realize that the highest calorific value ideally for any biomass is supposed to be 1,950 to around 2,000. But you realize if you can look at them, there are some which are below. Then we have to look away that you can make use of this one, then you are able. Then on binder, you realize that different binders have got an influence. The more the binder you use, the lower the calorific value you are going to find out. So you have to check that you maximize this binder, and there are the binders which are exist in the market that are not utilized. So again, we are also supposed to make that. So that is the conclusion that we have there. I've just shown how those differ and the ranges that we have there. So from there, I've just given about the low sulfur content that is existing there. Remember, sulfur is a pollutant to the environment. You check like coal. I did another research on coal that was experimental. It's not 190. Ideally, we need an average of 19,115. So you see here, some were below and others were high. So we have to look in a way that we can optimize, find out the best. My research ideally, you can just move to the next one. So those are the references. So ideally, my research on this review paper, I was trying to see which way we can make better from the ones that are existing. Other researchers have been done. So I was trying to look, is there a way we can optimize and find out the best that we can do so that we get the best and utilize all the available biomass wastes, so that we don't just draw them, or agricultural wastes, so that we don't just throw them, and yet we can utilize them and optimize them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. But the first issue that you must check is that we don't present the plus work. We come with the PowerPoint presentation. Let us agree. Then, in our presentation, we come with only key points, not giving us all the stories. The key points of what you feel in the introduction, the background, right? In the method of methodology, then in the data, analysis, and in the findings, just the key points. And that is why we have only 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you.
So, not that.
You had not prepared us for that. I thought we
said, unless you are not there, we said you must present to us PowerPoint. We had the abstract, we had the full paper, and then we told you to prepare PowerPoints. I hope that is true for all of us. Please, note that. Number two, we expect having it as a analysis of what others have done. We need to see this, did this research, came up with this, did this research, came up with this, and this one. So now, what are you trying to compare? Either the findings from this as compared to this and the other. And finally, what do you suggest is the best outcome? That is what we expect. If any other questions, please, let's hear.
Any other question, any other concern, please? At the same time, I would want to know whether Helen Nangulu, Kitale National Polytechnic, is around. Helen Nangulu. If Helen is not, yes?
Daktari, just a comment.
Yes.
And it is sir, you've done a good job. It's good he has started, and Daktari, you've highlighted what we are expected to do. So thank you, sir, for that presentation.
Thank you. Maybe a clarification from Daktari. Like what I was doing was a review paper, and from my work, I've just highlighted I was doing citation, showing like who did what. So I don't really know where the point of contention is. Maybe profile. You can just help me so that in future when I'm doing the same, I don't make the same mistake, please.
Thank you. Now, the minute that you are talking of, you are trying to find out from what one has written, what were your intentions?
Yes, I know I mean, when I understand about a paper review, it's ideally trying to see what others have done. You consolidate it into one paper so that whoever wants to do research on the same can find out. And then from the recommendation, I've given out what was really trying to do here, whereby I'm saying that we have seen different feedstock have got different influences. So here, I've given out that one as a recommendation, whereby I'm saying that from this one, what we have seen, like, if you could see, maybe it's just because of time constraint, I've just given out an outline of different tables showing like moisture content in maize cob, moisture content in maybe rice hussicks. We have different contents. Then from there, my recommendation is we want to optimize. So from this work, like my intention was to show like how can we optimize by those ones which have, like, we know higher moisture content is not ideal. We know high hash content is not ideal. So my work was...
Thank you. That is what I've just stated. You have reviewed the various papers written by different people. Your intent is to bring out what? From the review. And that is what we have said. That you are saying moisture content. And this this paper writers have said these are the moisture content. Finally, we know somebody like you who intend to review, you have stated the moisture content of this research and of another one. And so now you are telling us, according to whatever is normal, then this is what we ought to do as per this researcher or that researcher. Or that researcher would have maybe gone further and does this. That is exactly what we are saying. Thank you. Let's now have somebody else. Thank you.
Maybe a revisit to get to know more.
So from there we can have Philip Karobia, Meru National Polytechnic. And I would also want to know whether Chebeti Naomi is anywhere in the plenary. Yeah. So is Chebet or Forrester Odongo? Forrester Odongo. This is Buret Technical Training Institute. Buret Technical Training Institute. If they are not there, Frida Kawira Ireri. Frida Kawira Ireri. Nyeri National Polytechnic. Nyeri National Polytechnic. Helen Namulungu. Helen Namulungu, Kitale National Polytechnic. Dennis Makori. Okay. After him, so yeah, Philip Karobia, you can take the stage.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Harikani and Dr. Mbugwa, for the opportunity. My presentation is based on food security and environmental sustainability. This is a mathematical presentation. I'll take minimum time. And maybe we can go to the next slide. I may not read the abstract and the like. Go to the next slide. What I'm trying to look at is about food security in the country. If you look at Kenya Kwanza manifesto, our new government, they are talking about water as being a problem in the country, and everybody is aware of problem that we are being faced with as far as water is concerned. And water is one of the key components of agriculture in this country. The question is, how do we harvest this water so that you can use it later in agriculture and for other uses, and again sustaining the environment? So I've come up with a channel. A channel in simply is a conduit for transport of some fluid of any nature, and my fluid here is water. I'm looking at a Trifesondo channel. A chip of this channel is on there on the screen for transport of water to the desired area. The desired area could be maybe for drainage purpose or even for food security. Take it to the dams or even water pans, because governments may not be able to construct those big dams. We can encourage our farmers to construct small dams. These are water pans. When it is dry times like now, they can use that water. So what I'm trying to do here is, what is those geometry of that channel that can transport maximum water so that we can use it. We can go to the next channel. The next is this is this is some of the work done by some people. If I were to say about Isombe, is one of the people who have tried to look at channels, and he has looked at the circular channel. Looking at a circular channel and water harvesting, circular is quite tedious even to construct, and even its efficiency is also low, though it can still transport some fluid. We have Wahome, who have also looked at channel. We have Karemi and others. They have looked at Traffisondo, not Traffisondo, but rectangular channels. But they found they were not very effective because of their geometry. Because if you look at our country, most of our channels are open channels. If they are open channels, it means when it rains, they are able to collect everything, water and the other deposit, what we call rubios. And you find if it is a rectangular kind of a channel, it is tossed and we put in quotes. Those in deposit are the corners, hence hindering the efficiency of the channel. We have others like Professor Kwanza is an authority in this area from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture, and he has compared a triangular and a rectangular channel in terms of transport of fluid. And again, though they are ambits, they can be used. It is on a raw scale. Just like circulars are used in our iron sheet. Most of the iron sheet you find they are circular because we use them for maybe water harvesting in a small scale, not in large scale. So we can go to the next slide. So this is some work. My problem here was that I've tried to tackle is channel blockages and overflows. This is a common feature in our roads. And then we later complain we have no water for use in our household or even for agriculture when we have even overflows. And this, of course, poses in danger and the drugs. Don't have to read justification, it's there clear. Drainage has been a problem for many years in Kenya and the like. I have some photos to show the problems are existent. This is around, I took this photo over the December already near Meru town, place called Makutano. When it was raining, you can see there's a lot of water, but we usually complain later. And this, you can see there's a lot of squaring on the road. You can go to the next one. We have, this is in Mombasa. They had to drill even a tunnel on a road because the channels that were there could not really transport the water. So that was in December 20. The other photos, I choose one. Yes, continue. So as I said earlier, these are mathematical where I've tried to bring the issue of food security and the like. You can go to the next slide, please. And well, objective, I already mentioned that. We can go. My parameters are there, the channel radius. These are the parameters we use in channel drainage or designing of channels design. So these are the specific objectives and of course the general objective. Yes, we can continue, please. These are, I choose to use the simple mathematicals, formulation analytically, just to explain. If you look at the paper later, maybe you can check it online. I've tried to dimensionize and do other small things. So, of course, flow parameters are seen. We have the velocity, we have the hydraulic radius, and the like. So, A is the area of the channel. What is the area of the channel? Hydraulic radius, and then we form the equations. I may not explain details, but I think in general you can change the area of the channel. We can continue. We can continue the next slide. These are the governing equation. R is the hydraulic radius. At what level should that channel be? Being an open channel, you can't have it very deep. For example, we want to transport water from Nyandarua town to maybe Nyandarua National Polytechnic. If the channel is too deep, it poses a danger. And most of these channels are not covered. So you have really to check the geometry. So, of course, you minimize. For a channel to be efficient, because hydraulic radius is a relation between area and I wet the perimeter. That's why you should minimize, of course, using those second differentials. Continue. And then, of course, for maximum, for minimum, the second derivative must be greater than 0, isn't it? That one is obvious. We can continue. So these are at what level? This is actually optimum levels at which area and the hydraulic radius should be. If, for example, just to explain that y out of 2 means y is the depth. For instance, if the depth of the wet end perimeter, the flow, let me call it flow surface is around, for example, 2 feet, the depth should be 1 feet, half of it. We can continue. So these are assumptions, so we do not need that. Continue. Results. Of course, this analysis studies with others who have done similar, as I have already mentioned a few of them, Professor Kwanzaa and others. We can continue. So the result agrees with the related work, meaning this channel can be used for agriculture and other use. What you need only to do is to know what are the geometry of the channel, so that we can reduce climatic changes, we can harvest water for agriculture use, we can even have better loans to avoid distractions, and now and then after 1 year you find the loans have a lot of photos. So I think and I believe from a result of my analysis, we can use this channel and we can reduce a lot of climate changes that we are facing, and also have sustainable agriculture in our country. Thank you.
Questions to the presenter, please. Questions to the presenter. Mic to this gentleman here. Please ask.
I just want to know if you are reviewing the literature or you are carrying out some experimental research, because you suggested a shape of a tunnel, which in my humble submission I have seen in some of our roads. So I don't know whether you are reviewing literature or there was some experiment you are carrying out.
It's an experiment. I have even in a paper some simulations of the same. Okay, this channel is in use, but from an engineer, maybe I can answer that as we wait for the question. The problem is at what in depth and what is the size of the channel. Of course, those who do some road maintenance will come and construct, but they don't know exactly how much can it carry. For example, to put it clear, you want to fill a dam. At what rate should that channel be, or what channel, depending on even the amount of water. If you are drawing water from a river to fill a dam, we don't draw the whole water, you just come and draw make a channel. So you must know the geometry and the size of the channel. That's what has not been done, and that's what I'm doing now.
Thank you. Let's listen to the concern here.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for the great presentation.
Thank you too.
Yeah, my question is, I've seen you have mentioned the hydraulic mean radius.
Yeah.
And we know that the hydraulic mean radius affects the frictional loss of the channel. But I haven't seen you capture that one so that we can know for this channel, will it be efficient for us to use it to transport water from from point A to point B? Because now the issue of transportation is not a major issue because we know it can be done. Yeah. But now what about the efficiency part of it?
Okay. So I have maybe looked at coefficients. It's only that because of time, I have analyzed. For example, if the channel, the lining are of concrete, what would be the effect? So I have considered Manning coefficient, which is roughness of the channel, and actually I've compared a natural one with an artificial one. And for me, I would prefer natural because it is easy to construct. Though because I was saying the channel couldn't be open, it is susceptible to alluvial deposit. So it's only time that I don't have. I can show you the Manning coefficient.
Thank you. Let's appreciate Karobia. Let's appreciate him. Now we will have Makori from Nairobi Technical Training Institute. Please, when it comes time for questions, let's have the questions first and then the presenter responds to all at once, please, so that we can minimize the time that we spend in presentations. Makori, please take the stage.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Makori from Nairobi Technical Training Institute. I have done a research on assessment of the biological quality of unpasteurized milk sold in Uasin Gishu County, a case study of Eldoret Town, Sogomo, Junction, and Kimumu areas that I like to present. So my research area is under agriculture, food security, and environmental sustainability. Now, my introduction and problem statement. The nutritional value of milk is second to eggs with regards to essential amino acids, energy, calcium, and vitamins. Good quality milk will lead to good quality dairy products that lead to good health, clean environment, which will reduce incidences of food-borne diseases. Once milk is defective, it cannot be improved when it comes to processing. In fact, the pathogens or the germs become more pronounced. So raw milk can harbor dangerous microorganisms that can pose serious health risk to the society. So of course, treatment of milk is usually done in form of boiling at different areas, and sometimes this is inadequate because it's not in a position to deal with all the microorganisms. And of course, the hygiene of milk in formal markets is surely compromised because it is prone to have pathogens which include Brucella, Escherichia coli, and Salmonella typhi. So this study was to address the issue of biological quality of milk in the study area. So my study had two main objectives. The first one being to determine the level of coliforms in raw milk and pasteurized milk. Coliforms are a collection of pathogens that include Cetrobacteria or Ecobacteria that can cause health risk. My second objective was to compare the level of coliforms sold in raw milk and pasteurized ATMs, pasteurized milk or milk ATMs, with KEBS and WHO standards. My study was guided by two main prepositions. The first one being the level of conforms in raw milk and pasteurized milk in Eldoret town are within the acceptable levels. The second one was the level of coliforms in raw milk and pasteurized milk is within the KEBS and WHO set standards. I did some literature review whereby I found that according to the draft East African standards on raw milk, milk is a normal, clean and fresh secretion extracted from the udder of a healthy cow. Milk supplies us with protein, calcium, essential amino acids, water and hormones. Can move on to save on time. That was literature review. Let's move on to the next slide. So my variables and how I measured them. Milk. I used a measuring cylinder to measure milk in milliliters. Milk groceries. I did a physical count of all the groceries at Sogomo, Junction, Kimumu and Eldoret town. Then coliforms, which are the collection of pathogens that I was looking at, I used a method we call zero dilution techniques to determine the coliform forming units. This one was my study area, which is in Eldoret town and its environs. Of course, the ATM, the milk from the ATM I acquired from the Eldoret town, and the unpasteurized milk I acquired it from the Eldoret and its environs. After I did my literature review, I found some gaps that necessitated my study. One of them being most studies are on the milk products and not raw milk itself. I also found out that no studies have been done to assess the biological quality of raw milk or unpasteurized milk. Again, I found that there were very limited studies done to compare the quality of milk sold by vendors to the WHO standards and KEBS health standards. My theoretical framework that I used in my study is the food theory that talks about factors affecting the food choice, which again talks about the food quality of food. I mean, the food choice is affected by the quality of food. Of course, this theory has been used by other researchers like Liu, among others. Let's move the next slide. I developed a conceptual framework that enabled me to collect my data, whereby I had the sources of milk, milk groceries and ATMs, and then the biological quality of milk. And the biological quality of milk, I was looking at the coliforms levels. My methodology, of course, my study population was 5 groceries and 5 milk ATMs. My unit of analysis was milk selling groceries and the ATMs. My sample size was 3 milk groceries and 2 milk ATMs. And in general, I took from each of the unit of analysis, I used 16 samples. My sampling design was random sampling. My study design was stratified random sampling. Methods of data collection was, of course, observation, measurement, and conducting experiment. Then my method of data analysis was analysis of variance using ANOVA. So these were my results. As you can see, the level of coliforms for my objective one, whereby my objective one was to determine the level of coliforms in raw milk and pasteurized milk, whereby the total coliforms level measured in all the raw milk samples were higher than pasteurized milk. As you can see, pasteurized milk is the one that is starting with the smallest bar, whereby it was from the ATMs, it has the lowest number of coliforms. Yeah, that was my result for objective 2, whereby I was comparing the coliforms from the different sites with those ones of the WHO standards. As you can see, the milk, pasteurized milk which I got from the ATMs had the lowest number of coliforms. Of course, the highest number of coliforms I found them at the Kimumu. And then, as you can see, when I tried to compare it with both the WHO standard, and of course, I made a recommendation for strengthening infrastructure and human resource development. Those ones were policy recommendations. Of course, I also made a recommendation for further research, whereby research should be done on milk to determine the relation between coliform and other milk pathogens. That was the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very informative presentation. I would want to take questions for our presenter, please. Questions, concerns, comments on improvement? Yes, Karobia.
Maybe on one, the shrines. I don't know. The shrines, when they are too congested, you tend to take a lot of time. It's a good, nice presentation. Maybe one question on your pathogens. You are talking about boiling milk. We usually boil every day. At what in temperatures? And did you find it's better? Because actually, when you tell me to boil milk, I will wait until it rises, and that's all. But temperature-wise, how do we go about it?
Okay, just a minute. Do we have another concern, please? Yes. Just put the questions down, and then you can respond to them all. I'm only picking 3 questions, please. Yes?
Okay, my name is Ken Mugambi. My concern is, he's talking about... Okay, you're talking about pathogens in milk, but I think not all coliforms form pathogens. So at least elaborate somewhere there.
The last one, please, at the back.
Okay, thank you very much, the presenter. I would suggest that during clean milk production, you have a variable also that results from cross-contamination. So it's not necessarily that the source of pathogens was from the cow, or so I hope you will also add a variable on cross-contamination, so that if the clean milk production process is followed, you may not actually get those pathogens, because we find that most of our local people, the Maasais, they just milk directly to their gourds or the calabash, and they make fermented milk, or they just take it directly. So maybe you can add that variable in your study. Thank you so much.
Please take the next 3 minutes and respond to those concerns.
Okay, thank you for those important questions. I'll start with comments. I'll start with the third one. Yes, I agree with you. If milking is done well, we may not have these pathogens, but they come from many sources. One of them is unhygienic milking. They also come from the fecal matter of the cow, and also when they can also result from the transporting, when it's being transported to the vendors. That's why it can acquire the pathogens. Then there is the one who asked about coliforms. Yes, not all pathogens are coliforms. I just say that coliforms are a type of pathogen which include Enterobacteria and Tetrobacteria that are found in milk, but not all pathogens are coliforms. And I don't know whether I've lost a question. Yes, for your case, you talked about the boiling point of milk. I think that's what I'm going to look at that. I did not concentrate on that.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We can now have Fred Sifuna Singalo Institute. Fred Sifuna Singalo Institute. Sangalo Institute, yes. And I would also want to know whether James Ngachi or Leah Amisi are anywhere in this hall.
All protocols observed. Good evening. My name is Fred Sifuna from Sangalo Institute of Science and Technology. I'm a PhD student that is in JQuat, doing chemistry. I've done some papers which I've published, which I can't share with you now. But I remembered when you sent me a call, I had something that I did in masters some other time. Then I shared with the panel. So I'm just sharing you what I did some other time. Okay. Looking at the topic, you can just move. It's all about pollution. We have a lot of pollution in our environment, right from pharmaceuticals, heavy metals, and name it, pesticide. But researchers have done a lot on the same, detecting them in water of recent. But the method of removing them, it's an issue because, all this waste from agricultural, because of population and industrialization, they are channeled to some treatment plants. In towns, every town, every hospital, you'll find that it has a wastewater treatment plant. But you find that eventually they are taken back to the nearby rivers. Intention is maybe it has been cleaned by the wastewater treatment plant. You can move on. You can move the slides. You can see all that. You can get them in water. You can get them in sludge and mercury. Some of this sludge you applied in agriculture. You collect it, then you use it in agriculture as mbolea. You can move on. The problem is actually pollution. The problem is pollution. And pollution, we are saying these pharmaceuticals, once in our system, if it goes to exceeding level, they will cause some diseases like cancer. Even drug resistance can be there, generated just because you are taking some of these. So I was able to just move on to come out with the levels in various wastewater treatment plants and towns and hospitals. Then I used a simple method which you learn in high school, electrochemical method, to be able to degrade. Then I was using some supporting electrolytes so that to test whether electro method can be a good method. You can proceed. You can still proceed. I will talk about that is the study area by then. It was majorly Bungoma, Busia, and Kakamega, Kisumu, and Kisii. You can move on. So we were able to collect this in those areas. Move on. Methodology. We collected the water. We did, concentration, then up to HPSL using cartridges. Move on. We also collected sludge. Then we extracted, and again was analyzed. Move on. That's a simple thing. By then it was just a cylinder, and you put there some electrodes with our pollutant having the pharmaceutical. Move on. So we were putting, the electrolytes, the pharmaceutical, obvious, in a beaker and electrodes. Then we were able to run using the UV machine and subsequently analyze it with HPLC machine. So our discussion as a results for this one, you'll find that most of the pharmaceuticals were present in quantifiable amounts in most of the waste water and even sludge samples. And even variation was also there of some of pharmaceuticals in sampling sites. And by then, this might be due to the widespread uses in human health sectors and so on. You can move on. So this is the data that we collected using HPLC machine for wastewater in various hospitals and wastewater treatment plants. Then you can move on. Same to sludge. That's for sludge. You can see there are various levels. Some exceed the limits. You can move on. I don't know whether you can be able to see some of these pharmaceuticals, right? I think which I didn't mention. We have diclofenac, that's TCF. We have sulfamethoxazole. We have carbamazepine. We have propanol. We have our paracetamol, and all that. That's what we did our discussion. You can move on. For sludge, there was same. You can move on. So we also realized that in sludge, the concentration of pharmaceutical in sludge was higher, and this was just an indication that in sludge it acts as a sink for these pharmaceuticals, and therefore the use of sludge as fertilizer provides a channel with which pharmaceutical can get into the biota. We compared with other studies like in South Africa and United States. You can concentration. We did the UV. So with the concentration of the pharmaceutical, we only emphasize on the two, diclofenac and sulfamethoxazole. Then move on. Then we did the CV, the cyclic volumetry, which I did in a KU, just to know whether these pharmaceuticals are active so that they can be used by electrochemical method. You know, you need to know whether they are electroactive so that the method can be good. So we did the CV, and when you look at it, it shows the oxidation and reduction peaks, which means they can be oxidized, it can be degraded using electrochemical method. You can move on. So with the time, you can see, with time, we ran like for 70 minutes. At zero, the concentration was very high, looking at the absorbance around 1 there. But as time goes up to 50 minutes, it was reducing. You can go to another slide. That is for another drug. The same happened. You can move on. Then when we did the HPLC analysis, you can see at zero for the two drugs, when you degrade them, they were reducing. But there are some other peaks there that has maybe a metobolite was formed. You can move it. Those are the graphs to show that we used two electrodes types. We used platinum and we used the normal carbon. By then we realized that platinum is very stable than carbon and it will do the degradation better. Lastly, you can go on. We did some, kinetics to know the orders and so on. And this method was actually a physical process, not a chemical process, because it just breaks the compounds into CO2 and water, which are not poisonous. Recommendations are there. You can move on. I want to acknowledge all those people because Marco Philippines, that's from Sweden, Stockholm University, help us in analysis of HPLC, then management of wastewater treatment plants, then cost people because by then it was funded, then my department of pure and applied chemistry department. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the good presentation. Can we clap for the presenter? Let's appreciate him. Thank you very much. Can we have some concerns, please, and questions? No, yes, at the back there.
I just want clarification. We know most of the wasteful materials or those pharmaceutical elements come from the industry, and there is the prime time of production of each and every industry. So I don't know if at all the time could have the time that you corrected your samples could have changed the results if at all you picked them at another time. So it's just clarifying, because actually they are not they are not released at the same time. There is that high peak hours. Thank you.
Another question? Another question, please.
Thank you very much. Would just want to ask how you can optimize the trapping of these pollutants, and from that method that you use, the electrochemical. We wanted you to tell us how you change the variables, or maybe to second order, so that you may say I've optimized at this level. The removal of those. Maybe you can tell us how you may optimize, so that if there is the removal, at what level do we say the or what second order function that you use to optimize the removal? Thank you.
If we do not have another concern, please let's have him, the presenter, respond to those two concerns, please.
I think the first concern, Madam Deputy of Nyandarua National Polytechnic, is whether I collected at the right time, or I could have done some seasonal collection. But actually I didn't go to the industry. I only went to what you call waste, and those that are found in the hospitals. I was just concerned with the rising population in towns and also hospitals. Then I was like, some of what I discovered by then is that some of the hospitals that we have, they don't even have the proper system of treating. So they only channel the waste in the nearby rivers. And yet you have fish, you have all that. So it became, and yet we have some people, they just take that water. Depending with our background, you can't do that, but some do. Some, they go swim there. Yeah? In the swimming process, you see, it happens. The second concern, I don't know whether I've answered you, Madam. Okay. Another concern was whether the optimization. Yes, I did the optimization. It's only that we were given some time, but I did it. Yeah. Then we did some kinetics, and we are able to run, let us say, the zero order. We see whether it happens. The first order, whether it happens, and even the second order, whether it happens. Then looking at the coefficients that we were able to get, then it was like, these are second order. And that's why I said, with most second order, you'll find that those are fiscal processes. It's not chemical. That's why I said when you are doing that in that beaker, you realize that whatever that comes out is just water and CO2. So it's all about just breaking. It's not even any chemistry there a lot. It's just like you are taking a panga and cutting a drac. Okay? So that's what we realized. But we can share more. I'm still around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sifuna. That is a good presentation. Just before I welcome the next presenter, who is Stephen Musilangombe from Kitale National Polytechnic, I would want to know whether we have in the hall who has not presented, supposed to present today, from when you look at the book of the abstract. Then if we do not have, Musilangombe closes the day one presentations. Welcome, Stephen Musilangombe.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my presentation. I'm Mr. Stephen Musilangombe, a trainer at business, in the business department at Kitale National Polytechnic. My research was on, the title of my research was on mentorship as a determinant of youth participation in agribusiness. We all know that youth, people between the ages of 18 to 35 years, they are categorized as youth in Kenya. And now, these young people, these young people are faced with the issue of unemployment. At the same time, looking at rural areas in our country, particularly in Kakamega County, you will realize that some homes are experiencing issues with food. Some homes are experiencing poverty. But now, youth forming a large population in such counties means that they are not utilized. If they are utilized properly, we can have an improvement in such a situation. Now, from the background information, I discovered that the youth can immensely contribute to agricultural sector when they are well mobilized. So mobilizing youth, mostly in this sector, agricultural sector, it can really contribute to the development of our economy as agriculture. I'll move on to the next slide. As agriculture will contribute to the general GDP of our country. Now, looking at the agricultural sector in Kenya, you will discover that most of those participating in agriculture, they have the average age of 55 years, meaning they are old people. But now young people are left out, or those ones who are participating, the number of those participating in agriculture is very small. Now, the researcher decided that what if we carry out a research on mentoring youth in agribusiness? Can it add value to our economy? You can move on. Now, looking at the long-term development plan, Vision 2030, in our country, it outlines that agricultural activities can contribute around 10% of the economic growth rate in our country. And also looking at the agricultural sector development strategy, they stipulate that youth have the potential, the great potential to contribute towards the agricultural development. At the same way,
when we compare with what the White said, there is a researcher called White. The person says that, or the author says that the youth are not actually involved in this sector. They are left out in the sector of agriculture. So meaning there is a gap somewhere that should be filled. Then relating to that, now the researcher now decided now to carry out research now to establish if mentorship in agribusiness can make youth actually participate in agribusiness, which can contribute the development of our economy. Now I had three objectives I wanted to focus on. The first one was to establish individual factors hindering youth participation in agribusiness. Another one was to determine entry points for youth participation in agribusiness. And then the third one was to establish role of skill-oriented programs in enhancing youth participation in agribusiness. Now from there, I did some literature review. I started by having a theoretical review. I adopted the social learning theory, which fall under the learning category. Mentorship is related to learning. Now the theory is related to apprehendizeship. And then on the structural part of that theory, we will learn that those ones are individuals in society with different positions. They can have an influence on those ones who are below them. And then on the social aspect, we learn that people should have access to resources and also networks. Next. Now, globally, when we look at globally, I took an example of Australia. We learned that agriculture is really valued. But now there was a concern because the food that was being produced did not meet the actual needs of the people or the citizens in Australia. But now they came up with a way of appreciating now those youth participating in agriculture, and that enhanced youth participation in agriculture. The same way, when we look at in Africa. When we look at in Africa, you will discover that the way I said, most of the people are the old ones participating in agriculture, but the youth are left out. So, and the main reason that contribute to this is the lack of interest of youth in agriculture. You will discover that most of the youth do not have interest in agriculture because of some reasons. Now, according to FAO 2017, the research done by FAO, it was discovered that inadequate technical knowledge makes youth not really participate in agriculture. If they participate, they don't produce to their maximum. And also you have education, inadequate farming information, inaccessibility to farming land, and inadequate financial resources contribute to youth failure in agribusiness. I can continue. Now, also in Kenya, you will discover that most of the financial institutions do not offer capital or financial resources to youth because the youth lack the security to make them acquire those loans, mostly when it relates to issues with agriculture. Now, on carrying out my research, the specific area was I did some research in Malaba sub-county, Nabaholo and Lukari sub-counties. It happened that I come from that place. I selected a sample size of 90 youth who were conveniently selected. 45 were participating in agriculture, in agribusiness, and 45 were not participating in any activity relating to agribusiness. Now, I designed a questionnaire. The questionnaire was used to collect the information. The responses were given a Likert scale to measure the questions in relation to what they are feeling about the variables that were presented. Next. Now on the findings, it was discovered that 16 out of 90, 16 of the participants were female, and 74 were male, meaning that more male are oriented towards agriculture than female. Then age bracket, we had an age, those ones who are 30 to 34 were 41%, and 26 to 29 were 35%, meaning they had the potential to give their views towards agribusiness. Next. Now, the research sought to find out factors hindering youth participation in agribusiness, and on those factors, it was discovered that inadequate capital is a main issue at 95.55%, affecting youth participation in agribusiness. Then another one, we have inadequate capital, lack of access to capital, and then we have inadequate knowledge. And then that one indicates that young people are struggling to acquire the necessary capital to venture into agribusiness. So the main issue affecting young people to venture into agribusiness is inadequate capital. Another issue is access to land. You'll discover that most of the land is owned by parents, and they are not ready to give it to the young people to maybe utilize in agribusiness or any other activity. Next. Also, on agribusiness participation areas or levels, it was discovered that it's not that clear. It was discovered that youth have interest in animal production, they have interest in crop production, they have also interest in distribution, they have also interest in marketing the products, meaning that youth, they are ready to take all the activities pertaining to the whole agribusiness chain. So involving youth in agribusiness can be in different areas. Next. Now, on factors hindering youth from achieving the best in agribusiness, we know that any business should at least make you to create wealth. So the research tried to the researcher wanted to know factors that hinder youth from achieving best in agribusiness, and it was discovered that lack of capacity development, that can be training, is a major issue that contributes to failure in some of those ones participating in agribusiness. Also, the inadequate market. It was discovered that some of them view that there is no market for the products they are producing because they are in rural areas. Another one was on the issue of information. There is inadequate information concerning the venture, thus it hinders them from achieving the best. Now, in the corrective measures, the research found out that training, giving, or agribusiness-oriented training can enhance the youth participation in agribusiness. Now, on the types of mentorship that youth had received, the topmost one is now relating to, we had different youth mentorship programs that some of them had participated in. We had one-on-one learning, which we had a response of 7, and then we had those ones trained at home, we had 7, those ones trained by organizations, we had 11, and then those ones trained by or given mentorship by the government, we had 0, meaning there is an issue from some of the...
Please summarize, time is up.
Thank you. Now, on the effect of the mentorship programs, we discovered that mentorship has a great impact, or a creative positive impact on the youth participation in agribusiness. So in conclusion, involving youth in agribusiness can be a very important strategy for creating job opportunities as well as ensuring food security. Also, youth can be involved in different areas, can be production, can be marketing, can be distribution, also can be maybe in promoting or selling the necessary resources required. Then in recommendations, we recommend that relevant bodies and the government should employ an integrated and holistic approach to enhance youth accessibility to relevant resources required in agribusiness, and also youth should be involved in designing and planning the anticipated interventions to enhance food security as well as employment. And there should be an open rural transformation. Rural areas, there is an issue with the markets and roads, so there should be rural transformation on issues of markets and infrastructure to attract more youth in the agribusiness. Thank you for your audience.
Appreciate a good presentation. Do you have any comments and or questions? Yes.
For the wonderful presentation. However, presentation and the topic, you said mentorship as a determinant for youth in participation in agribusiness. But from your presentation, I didn't see really mentorship you showing as it's a determinant.
Okay.
Where have you shown mentorship as the determinant? Because what you have given are factors hindering, but no mentorship is there. Maybe, I don't know, you can just give me. I see that as a missing link. Yeah.
Good. Do we have another concern, another question to the presenter, please? Yes, Funa.
It's a nice presentation, sir, but I'm concerned with the slides. Next time, you improve on your slides. It should be brief. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The last one, please. Last one, please. If you do not have another one, then you can take the next 2 to 3 minutes and respond to those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I was asking if there is a link between the topic and what I have discussed. Now, looking at in the discussions, you will discover that I had a part on effects of mentorship programs. Now, I wanted people to give feedback on the effects of the mentorship programs they have received. Now, if they have not received, maybe they have the information on that. So in my presentation, looking at the slides, there is a part I had indicated effects of mentorship programs, and in those discussions I have indicated the percentages. It's just a matter of time, but I have indicated there the percentages on each aspect. We have the capacity building, we have the management skills, we have also on the information. So we will discover that mentorship has an impact on youth because it contributes to acquisition of skills, management skills. It also helps them to acquire more information that can help them to venture into agribusiness. Hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With the presentation of Stephen from Kitale National Polytechnic, we will close the day's presentations, and then from there we can have somebody to pray for us, and then we close the day's activities until tomorrow at 8 in the morning. A volunteer, please. Somebody can pray for us? Yes, good. And you also pray for tea.
Thank you. Before I pray, let me congratulate Nyandarua Polytechnic. You have exceeded our expectation. We didn't know you being your first ST&I conference will do this great thing. Thank you, Madam Pauline, Daktari, Bogwa, the management. I think we have personally enjoyed and have learned something new. And behold, I'm doing a new thing. That's a very powerful. I've written it. It's good. Okay, let us pray. Almighty Lord, we thank you once more this evening. Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for taking us throughout the day. Lord, we have enjoyed our researchers who have presented. We thank you for this institution, great institution, that has afforded us this great opportunity to be here. May you continue showering with them with great favors and blessings. We thank you even for the tea that is before us. May we eat into our bodies. As we depart, Lord, let's depart bonded, but let us be bounded by our souls. And as we meet here tomorrow morning, may favor continue showering us from heaven. We thank you and honor you. If I pray this in your holy name. Our Father, around me the name, thy kingdom come, your will be done as it is in heaven. Give us our daily bread and forgive our sins as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. For thine is the kingdom, power and glory, forever and ever. Amen.